Now, looking to the next year in our section now coming up, obviously you've had the ministerialship all the way through. You're inside Coman. You must be now looking, beyond next year, shall I say? I can ask you, but you obviously won't probably say about your future plans. You a career politician on this?
Well, I don't like the word career politician. It's an unusual word. I've enjoyed my tenure as Minister at DEFRA. I was a backbencher and also in DEFRA as a department member in the previous administration. We are achieving things in DEFRA. I think we're moving the department forward. There's a lot going on at the moment in terms of regulatory hubs and regulatory regimes and how we're going to deal with that. The fishing industry, agriculture, all important. Climate change, we're talking about planting and incentivising trees and all environmental issues.
Climate change, I mean, it's a massive
plastic as well, don't forget plastic. We've been dealing with that. That's been part of our remit. So there's a lot going forward.
And these are things you want to deal with in the next 12 months then?
Well, it's going to be a tight programme, but if I look at what we've got, competition bill, animal welfare bill, climate change bill, bathing water quality goes forward Timor, Brexit issues and how we're going to resolve all of those, and the agri-environment scheme going forward and how we evolve that and how we incentivise things that...
Removing Brexit from that, what's your top one?
Well, at the moment it's got to be between climate change and the competition bill. Competition bill is important. It's going through the OFT, so it's within the department, but I'm not going to promote it. Mr Perkins will be doing that as chair of OFT, but I think in terms of our relationship with the UK and EU going forward, the competition bill is very important.
Mm-hmm. And things like the gas situation, I mean, that
well, that falls within an OFT Coman remit.
I mean, another gentleman's agreement's being looked at. Is that really the right way?
Well, I'm not sure really. I've been looking at this for some time, and gas on the Isle of Man is more expensive than it is in the UK, and that's because there are only 85,000 of us. It's a small network, and I think that will ever be thus. Whether it's the right price or the wrong price, we must get the best price we can for the consumer on the island. Okay,
so we're talking about climate change. At the same time, you're happy to have people drilling and for stuff out in our waters.
Well,
that comes under you?
Very much open to debate. It does partially, but in terms of the licensing for environmental parts of that and the fisheries, etc., we license that, but it's a government decision whether or not that goes ahead.
We still have no windmills out there at all. We see the UK ones. I mean, I'm amazed how clear they are.
We have a pin process in fact it's closed now for at least 20 megawatts, and I think we will see something happening in the very next short while.
Yeah, I mean, we're slow on this, aren't we?
No, it's again, it's market size. I mean, we've had a big problem with the UK in as much that we haven't been able to participate in their difference price contracts, which would enable them to top or subsidise wind energy. Because of the EU, that was a roadblock there. So anyone who wanted to develop in our territorial sea weren't able to participate in the UK scheme. If we're looking at local generation, then we've had a bit of a roadblock there because the MUA is obviously a government-owned organisation, and anything that you put in, it has to be at a similar price to the MUA, and you're undermining your own market.
But David Derricott up at Ramsey, who's producing electricity, he says this thing you put out, the MU have, is such a massive thing he couldn't even look at it. It's such a bizarre size.
It is, but it's a very complex subject, and I think we are moving in the right direction. I mean, certainly from my point of view, I would like to see some wind, either offshore or onshore. It would be great if we could get Ørsted's scheme off the starting block, but I don't see that happening in the immediate future.
What job do you want next time round?
Let's see if there is a next time round, Paul. Yes. I mean, I've enjoyed the job I'm doing at the moment. There's still a lot to do, so there we are. I'll leave it at that, Paul.
Top job?
I think there are other people that are contenders rather than myself.
It's not a no then, is it?
I've never say no to anything. Politics is a strange and varied beast.
Because you are seen as definitely the gentry man, aren't you? You have your plane, you go to the UK when you're allowed to do that.
I used to go to the UK,
yeah. The grouse thing came a bit of controversy as well, or was that just overblown?
No, that wasn't grouse, that was grey partridge.
Grey partridge. Was that overblown, that?
That was very much overblown. It was one of those things that took wings, and a lot of people didn't quite understand what we were trying to achieve. I mean, we've been approached to see whether we would introduce an open season for grey partridge, as there is for red leg partridges on the island, because some people wanted to import young birds and release them. They'd all get shot. I mean, it was like they're going to release them and shoot them, and that would have helped to regenerate.
Do you think communication's lacking maybe in places or some things then?
Well, I think that, you're always going to find that some people would go off at tangents on things like that, and when it comes to field sports and what have you, there is controversy around it, so I accept that.
We are in a very fluid time as we're recording this, so things may move massively, but obviously the UK is about to make some more announcements. How are you in the position of our borders, where they are on the levels?
Well, I think talking to people, I mean, it's the first time in politics I've had people come up to me in the street and say thank you very much for what you've done as a government collectively. And I think other ministers have experienced the same, and that's very good. At the moment, we are in a situation where we're seeing a deteriorating situation in the UK, although I'm watching the figures very carefully, number of deaths versus number of infections. And when you look at Spain and Italy and France, the number of deaths haven't risen that dramatically. And every death is to be regretted, but at the same time, when you look at the underlying deaths throughout, you've got to have a balance between the economy and people's health.
So more or less what?
Well, in terms of our own borders, I can't see us making any changes in the immediate future.
Even letting people in from the UK who go under exactly the same quarantine as if that's a Manx person returning?
Well, I think this is something that we review every 2 weeks, and we have a look at it. We take advice from the health officials and public health, and I've got relatives and a son who's in the UK, and he wants to come over. He hasn't seen us for quite a long time.
But he doesn't qualify as Manx, so he can't...
Well, he's got a Manx passport, and he was here when he was a youngster, but he's got no residency here at the moment because he's been working in the UK for the last 10 years.
Okay, so you're actually caught in the same trap, because I'm obviously get a lot of people asking me this thing, and I keep asking everyone I can what they think about those. It's a slight change.
Well, I think there may be a nuance around this, that people who have roots here or relatives, close relatives, may be able to come over if they observe the same quarantine rules. But that's for the future, and it's a decision. It's not for me to make it. It's a personal view. That.
What was your mailbox like? Percentage-wise, shut, open, or
I think it's
halfway house?
I would say in terms of speech interaction in the community as well as emails, I would think 95% say we're really lucky on the Isle of Man. Food and Drink Festival, a good example. We can still do stuff. We can forgo the going away, or if we want to go away, we can do that 14 days, but let's not go back into social isolation, as it were, and distancing and all the rest of it. So it's going to be a very careful balancing act. And
do you think all the agricultural shows, everything should be back on next year, subject to how it all goes?
How long's a piece of string? It was
so
awful. The Royal and Southern, they are big events on the island, and I was really sad to see them go. The TT, of course, and Manx Grand Prix, or not the Grand Prix.
Got a view about TT?
Sorry?
A view about TT? You'd like? I mean,
well, it would be really, really wonderful.
Do you think it's possible?
Paul, I don't know at the moment. No. Looking at the stats and where we're going, I just don't know.
Right, it's time for some vote numbers for yourself, first of all. Out of 10, please, this year. How do you rate yourself?
Well, you always ask this question. I know you ask MHK. It's a difficult one. I think last year I said about 7.5 or 8, and I think it's about the same this year.
Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yes.
Is that the right word to use? Enjoy.
Well, if you don't enjoy the job, you shouldn't do it, really, particularly in a situation like this, because as MHKs, we are volunteers. We stand up to
You're getting paid for it.
Yeah, I know, but we are volunteers. We put ourselves forward, and we represent the community. There are obviously downsides and upsides. When you see things like the coronavirus pandemic and the restrictions you have to bring on people, I find that difficult. But yes, I have enjoyed the year. There have been some down times and some depressing things that have happened in terms of some constituency issues, various things that have happened with people where I've tried to help and haven't been able to, but you always have failures.
Okay. And how do you vote the Quayle administration out of 10?
Well, I think it's about an 8 as well. We may have been able to...
Do you get on all right with them?
Howard and I get on very well.
Yeah.
There's no problems there, no friction at all. And in fact, I would say as Komen generally, we pull together very well. We have disagreements, and obviously sometimes there are votes.
I hear there's quite a bit of split on this border thing going up in there, but
I think there's the different expressions.
that's a polite way of putting it.
Yeah,
a diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah, but actually we all pull together. At the end of the day, we discuss
collective
things,
responsibility.
And collective responsibility overrides personal interest. And you put your views forward, and then we vote. And I think, as the Chief Minister said, sometimes he doesn't win.
He did actually say that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's very often. You won't tell me that, will you?
Yeah. No. But that's the essence of a democracy and a collective responsibility situation.